In this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and use Adobe Photoshop to create a portrait from text. As you can see here, we've got Kurt Cobain from Nirvana and some lyrics to one of his songs. So one of the first things you've got to do is some prep work to get the text that you're going to be putting over the image put together first. So what I did is I went and grabbed some lyrics off of the web and do a Control-C to copy. I'm going to go ahead and bring it into Word, into a blank document. I'm going to push paste, and you're going to see we've got a lot of problems here in that we've got a whole lot of breaks, and you can't have that in order to make this work. So I'm going to do a Control-A and select all. I'm going to come up here to replace, and I'm going to come here to special. I'm going to tell it to take out any manual line breaks, which are these little tabs, and I want to replace them with a single space. So replace all. So that took care of 45 of those. I didn't have to go and do it by hand. Now I want to go ahead and go to special and grab those paragraph marks because I want it to all run into one. It's still replaced with one space, replace all. So now I've got some text, but this text is not going to be nearly enough for what we need it to do. So for the sample, what I would do is I'd copy and paste and paste and paste and paste and paste and paste for several pages because you're going to want to dump it. Then you can go through and do your find again or your replace, get rid of those paragraph marks. So now we've got lots and lots and lots of text here we have to play with. So that's what you're going to need in a little bit. Let's go ahead and go into Photoshop, open up your portrait. And one of the first things we always want to do is go to Image, Image Size, and take a peek at what we're working with. This one's 14 by 9, so depending on how big you're going to use it, maybe you're doing a 2-page spread and you want to leave it that way. I always do resolution 300. You can always bring it back down. All right, so let's say OK to that one. Let's do a file and a save as, and first initial last name, underscore text portrait as a PSD. So save it as a PSD. Here you go, Photoshop document. And save. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and unlock that background layer. Next thing I want to do is make sure that my lights and my darks are really obvious because that's what makes it so the words actually come through pretty well. So let's do a image, and we're doing destructive editing here because we're fine destroying what we've got. We don't need to preserve anything. Let's go ahead and go to levels. And I'm going to come down and play with, you can either play with your histogram or you can grab your dropper and say this is what I want black to be until you get a nice dark black. And you can hit save at that point. Alright, so now we need a place to put our text. So let's go to our layers panel, get a new layer. So this is where our text is going to go. We want to go ahead and fill that layer with blank. So let's go ahead and make sure our foreground color is set to black. If it's not, you can use your little switcher. Make sure it's set to black. And let's do a edit. Come down here to fill, and we want the foreground color, which is black, and say OK, and that's fine that it all disappeared. It's not a big deal at all. Next thing we want to do is come up with a place to put our text. So we're going to grab our text tool and we're going to drag out a box over the entire image. You can readjust this later, so don't worry too much. And then I need to decide what my typography choices are before I get started. So I'm going to go to my properties panel and go ahead and choose a type of font. I think I did Bebas for this one, but you can choose anything you like. Bebas regular. I'm going to choose my size. The bigger the letters, the less of this type of effect you get. It's up to you as to how you're going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and let's try 12 and 12. Alright, so what we're doing is going ahead and determining what we're going to put in for our text. So let's go ahead and change it to white so we can see what's going on. And you see it's filled it with this dummy text, which I don't love, but is one of those things that Creative Cloud is now doing to make us a little crazy. You want to adjust your space between your lines. So you see the closer it is, You can have it basically on top of each other. So I usually set them both to be about 12. And I'm going to make sure that it is, let's go to advanced. I want to make sure that my paragraph is on justified because we want to go to both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and do a Control Alt and delete all that text that they've got in there right now because I don't want it. I'm going to go back to my Word document that's got all of my copies. So I'm going to do a Control A to copy it, or to select all, and a Control C to copy. I'm going to come here into Photoshop and I'm going to do a Control V to paste. And you'll see that I don't have enough. So I can paste it again and again until we are really full. Now notice I got weird white spots in mine because there's these ellipses. I'll zoom in. And it's making things happen that I don't want to. So if I was doing this for real, I would probably go through and take those out because right now it's going to show as weird voids basically in my text, which we don't necessarily want. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a Control S and save what I've got so far. If you don't like the way this looks, you can always come back through and play with it. You can do a Control A with your text tool, come back in and change the, maybe you're going to change the file, change the style of the font. Totally up to you as to what you're going to do. You can go ahead and change this later. You're not stuck with what you've got at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and stick it back on Beavis just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is add a layer mask to our type layer. So while our type layer is selected, we're going to come down here. Oh, we have to commit those changes. And I want to add a layer mask, which is the little camera right here at the bottom. And right now it looks like nothing happened, but it will. Let's go ahead and come down here to our photo. And we need to copy it and put it into that layer mask. So what we're going to do is do a Control A to select everything. What we're really selecting is that background image. We're going to do a C to copy. Then we're going to come up here to the layer mask and we're going to Alt click on just the mask and do a Control V to paste it in. So basically what you've done is pasted that image into the mask. So you're saying this is what I'm putting over top of the other things. And then I'm going to hit Alt and click, and now my words are going to come through, which is pretty cool. I can go through now with my text and I can resize it, I can play with it. Maybe I don't like the way it's looking. I can always do a Control A and adjust things otherwise. Alright, so what else can I do? I want to make it a little bit brighter. So what I can do is take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to do a right click, duplicate layer, and say OK. And now you can play with a few things. You can play with, maybe you want to try a blending mode over top. A lot of different things you can do. Change the look and feel of what you've got and how much is popping through. Maybe you want to go ahead and change the opacity on that top layer. Up to you as to what you think is perfect when you get to the end. If you don't like the font, before you duplicate it, make sure you change it. Other than that, do a file save as, and if you're going to put it into a publication, I would probably save a flat copy as well. But that is how you make a portrait from text.